Hello, fellow travelers. Welcome to the Tavern Hunter Podcast. Today on the show, we have illustrator Claudia Cangini. You may know
Hello.
her. We may know her from her work from such role-playing games as Night Witches by Bully Pulpit Games, or 1001 Nights by Lumpley Games, or from her webcomic, The Witch of Stonebridge Falls. Claudia, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. You're a well-established working artist in many respects. You seem to be in high demand in the role-playing game world. But let's go to the beginning. What is your background as an artist?
Thank you. First of all, I will take your word on that. As for my background, as an artist, I basically started drawing as soon as I was able to, or the crayon in hand, and always loved it since I was a child. Being an artist was my dream job. Unfortunately, I was surrounded by family, teachers, and my ex-husband and everybody telling me I couldn't make a living of this. I needed a real job. This couldn't be my full-time job. So I spent a long time trying to find any art adjacent work I could, like lettering, westernization of manga, working in publishing of manga and anime, in publishing of RPGs. And finally, I find myself in a situation where after separating from my ex-husband, I was without a job. And I decided to try and become an artist full-time. Luckily, I managed to find some commissions, and from there, I worked steadily up to now. It also helped a lot that I had a partner supporting me in this, telling me I could make it for a change. It was nice. So I don't have a formal education, obviously. Everything I know, I learned observing other artists and stealing from them everything I could. I have a huge love for manga and anime, and I think it shows in my art. But also for Western artists, there are many I admire. So this is how I became the artist I am today.
I think that's very amazing that you have no formal training. You are self-taught in the best way possible. You mentioned some RPGs. Are you doing much gaming these days, or is your artwork keeping you a little too busy?
Unfortunately, I am not doing gaming these days for a series of circumstances. I moved to Spain from Italy in 2018, and I was just starting to know some people. Then the notorious pandemic happened. Yeah. So of course lockdown, and earlier I was quite active in the Italian RPG scene, but after my separation, I really didn't really feel at ease there. So I was quite out of the scene for a while.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think the COVID interrupted pretty much everyone's campaign, so that makes sense. Is that so? You said you were involved in kind of the RPG scene in Italy. Is that how you kind of connected with so many RPG publishers and started doing art for them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. That was basically. I was working in the Italian editions of many games. Also, if you remember, there was the Forge, and when Google Plus was a thing, I was quite active there, and so I got to know many people in this way.
Yeah, we all miss Google Plus. I don't think the RPG scene found a home after Google Plus shut down. I remember those days.
Also, Discord is horrible, may I say it. I hate it. I hate it with a passion.
Don't say that, you'll anger the nerds.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same as Google Plus, though. You have been doing. I'm quite partial to your work because for anyone who doesn't know, Claudia is currently working on our game called the Broken Cask, which is a game about running your own inn and tavern. Should be done next month or so. and you've done a very good job of capturing the cozy tavern feeling. So, what elements do you think, as an artist, do a tavern or really any imaginative space? What does it have to feel especially cozy or to hit the right feeling?
Well, I hope I understand your question correctly. If we are talking from an aesthetic point of view, I think stuff like warm lights, like from preferably from fires, like candles or earths, will give a very cozy atmosphere, and some kind of comfortable seating arrangement, not too much noise, and things like that. As if we are talking from a vibe point of view, I think a place where when you get in, it's not like everybody ignores you and is just busy with his own group, but they are available to interact with you in some way. You are made feel welcome.
Yeah, that makes a lot
Is
of
this?
sense. Yeah, no, yeah, that's exactly what I was asking. And if you haven't yet, make sure, listeners, you check out her Instagram and Twitter, because she's been posting some images from Broken Cask, and you talked about people interacting and how that really establishes the feeling. And so I think a lot of the pictures you've done of people like toasting and dancing, that's you hit it in that sense.
Awesome.
And
Thank you.
speaking of which, those pictures that you're doing for our game, the Broken Cask, they're very original. But were there any specific inspirations behind any of the pieces?
Thanks. Well, more than a specific inspiration, I will say that I went with the thing I love to put in. I always love to put this kind of stuff in my images, like I love subverting tropes. This is why I chose to have. Dwarves are usually depicted as very serious, even grim, and I gave them some artistic jobs like dancer or bard, and I had a troll doing something that require to be very smart, like reading cards and possibly conning someone, and I'd like to subvert tropes this way. Also, I love to put a variety of body types and phenotypes and have every kind of relationship. And I would say, most of all, I love to depict these little interactions between characters that can kind of be like micro stories for the person who watches those. They can think of what's the story between these people, what is happening, what's the relationship. This is what I try to do with my pictures.
To take the typical fantasy thing and then just kind of
Yeah,
turn it around a little bit.
yeah, a bit.
Yeah, that's good. I noticed that too, because yeah, you got the dwarvish belly dancer in one of the images. I like that too. So you said that part of it is the reader will look at the image and that will maybe spark some of their own stories, get their own stories going.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. So among those traditional tropes and fantasy images that you like to subvert a little bit, what are maybe some favorite fantasy worlds of yours, either traditional or non-traditional?
I am totally partial to Discord, I must admit. I would love to visit it, possibly to meet the very interesting people that live there. But if I should choose a place to stay a long time or live in permanently, I probably would choose my own comic. And this is not self-celebratory as it may appear, but it's just logical because I put in that setting all the things I like. Of course, it's mine, so I put everything I love there. Also, it's a project born in the middle of the pandemic lockdown, so it's a very self-indulgent thing.
Tell us a little bit more about that, because I've only read the first few panels. Tell us a little bit more about your comic and some of those things that you love that you put into it.
Well, it's fantasy, very low. The magic is quite low key, I think, not especially spectacular. It's a kind of slice of life thing, and it's about a witch, and is a male witch, and this is part of my enjoying the trope reversals, of course. I wanted to have a story where with a very, very positive representation of masculinity, because I feel it's something needed in the current narratives. We don't have enough of that. And so this was the root of it. And as I said, it was born in a very stressful period, this story. So it has a very wholesome vibes, at least in my intention. It's about relationships and getting to know each other, and getting over the things that everybody has difficulty with the helps of friends and lovers, and it's very wholesome in my intention.
You said that the comic kind of came out of the stress of the pandemic. I think for myself too, that's when I really started getting more interested in the tavern theme. So it makes sense to kind of look for comfort in those
totally
times.
Makes sense. It's isolation, so you think of getting together with people. It totally makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I guess one last question I want to end on is I want to go back to Discworld for a second. I think it's interesting that you mentioned that, because a friend of mine who actually I play Pathfinder with, that's one of her favorites too. And unfortunately, I haven't had the pleasure of reading that. But is that more sci-fi? Are there taverns to be found in Discworld?
There are some taverns in the world of Discord. Well, the Discord setting is a bit peculiar in the fact that it changes through time. If you read the first books Terry Pratchett wrote, and the last ones, they are a bit different. The first one are more humoristic and absurd, I will say. The last one are have this awesome balance of telling very serious stories about very serious matters in a totally amusing and entertaining way. I don't know how he did it. He was really a genius in this, because he wrote books talking about democracy and revolutions and the free press and all very, very serious stuff in a really enjoyable way. It's so sad we lost him already.
Yeah, that's another reason that got me thinking about that, because it wasn't that long ago. But okay, very good. Claudia Cangini, thank you so much for joining us on the show and telling us a little bit about your projects and a little bit about taverns. If you would like to learn a little bit more about Claudia, there are links to her art station, her comic, and various other outlets in the show notes. Claudia, thank you again.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for involving me in this project. It was a joy to work on this. It was very, very funny, very, I think, very the kind of stuff I like to do, and you gave me so much freedom, creative freedom to work with it. It made really a pleasure.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.